Hey everyone, welcome to this week's conversation. Appreciate you tuning in. My guest this week is an incredibly talented singer-songwriter with a powerful voice and a patriotic heart. And her latest single, Give Me a Cowboy, it's one of the best songs I've heard in a really long time. Please welcome to the show, Natasha Owens. Natasha, welcome to the show.
You for having me. Great.
It it is my pleasure. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time now,
Hey.
Natasha, I will tell you. And I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join me. We've got a lot of ground I'm hoping to cover, but if you don't mind, what I'd like to do first is kind of jump in that DeLorean, take a little bit of a trip back in time, back before your 7 albums, before you burst onto the Christian music scene about a dozen years ago. Let's go back to when and where it was that your musical journey began.
Goodness. Well, I come from a very musical family, and my grandparents recorded albums back in the day when they had the records.
Oh,
And I grew up with that, but I struggled with severe anxiety. So I
wow.
was always a part of music, but I really didn't want to be in the forefront. It was very uncomfortable for me to do a solo or lead out on anything. I just wanted to be on the back row and just part of it, right?
Wow.
And back in 2010, my dad was sitting at a table, the epitome of gun safety, but he missed a step with a dangerous gun, and a bullet came out and hit him in the heart, and he was gone within 30 seconds. And life as I knew it was completely put on pause. And I question, our words are so powerful. We can speak life and death into our situation. And I spoke death. I questioned why. And I didn't get an answer. And that's a dangerous question to ask. So I down spiraled. I held it together for the first year. And then I down spiraled after the anniversary into a deep depression to where I couldn't get out of bed most days. And
Oh
my
my.
pastor called 6 months into that depression and said, I need you to step up and be our music minister. And I said, I have nothing to give. I struggle with anxiety. I can't really talk in front of people. I don't know how to minister. I hear by ear, but I don't even know the notes to teach. Um, I'm not the person for you because if I had something to give, I'd give it to my family. And he kept calling and he kept calling and he called. God always gives us a lifeline.
Hmm.
And that was my last lifeline, is what he told me. He said, I want you to be quiet and I want you to listen to what God told me. And so I said yes to a position that I was scared to death to do, didn't know how to do it, and didn't know how to get out of depression. But it was my lifeline and it saved my life.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you. And we also appreciate our first and longest running sponsor of the show, Tom and his team of insurance professionals at the Malin Agency. If world class customer service and doing business with someone you can trust is important to you, give Tom and his team a call today for all your insurance needs.
And I said yes to it. It was the hardest several years of my life, but I dug out of that hole, and it was a training ground for what I started doing after that. And I didn't even realize it. My story is very backwards how I came up on the Christian music scene. Um, my very first concert was with Michael W. Smith on a massive stage.
Wow.
So to Nashville, I didn't quite pay my dues, right? And a lot held that against me. But it wasn't long. I was touring with Grammy winners and put my foothold into contemporary Christian music and ended up doing 4 albums. Each album was um, another chapter of my recovery, and I didn't realize it at the time. It's like God just illuminated just enough of the path for me to walk. And my very first concert was on my dad's birthday. I had said no to it because I was so overwhelmed and was scared to get on a stage like that. And my manager said, Tosh, it's October 3rd. Let me know. And I said, I'll do it. I feel like that's God's sign to me with anxiety to just step out, walk the path, and he will equip me and I will do the best I can and he will make up the rest. And he did. And that was the beginning of my long journey in music so far. I've been in it about 11 years.
Wow.
Um, 4 albums in contemporary Christian, but everything changed back in 2017. We crossed paths in politics. We were part of President Trump's faith initiative team in his first term in office. And when 2020 hit, we lived in an environment where people were so non patriotic at the time, or at least the young ones were. And our freedoms were being infringed upon like I had never seen in the past. And I wanted to remind people the sacrifice it took for freedom, that freedom is the most expensive thing that we own and should be the last thing we give away.
Hmm.
And I wanted to give back to the military and their families for the sacrifice as a to say thank you. And that's where everything changed in contemporary Christian. Um, I say I got kicked out of contemporary Christian because they frowned upon they're very progressive and woke in Nashville, non-conservative as an industry, and a lot of the artists are too.
Hmm.
And they didn't like that I did a patriotic album. They didn't like that I put a song on that album called Stand for Life. They said I was too pro life, I could offend someone. So radio stations were firing me off of events, and promoters were firing me off of tours. And that's when I turned and started doing political songs. But I can tell you all about those. I could keep talking for the next couple hours on my story, but that's kind of the
No, I,
synopsis of what happened.
no, and it's just, I mean, I'm sitting here and first of all, just to be able to come back from that experience you had and what you went through with your father early on and recognizing, like you said, that lifeline, had you not taken that, like none of the rest happens. I'm still in awe of that. But just what I'm realizing is after hearing all these things is the resilience that you have, that ability to just if you know face these barriers and these obstacles. And I had no idea that climate was the way it was that you just
Yeah.
described. I knew things were, kind of leaning a certain way in the entertainment world, and things like that. But I just assumed that there would still be the ability, like a big enough roof for everybody, if you
Yeah.
will, with different viewpoints.
There's no tolerance. There's no tolerance on the other side for us or our viewpoints, especially when it comes to pro life or conservative values. They don't even want us at the table. So their way is just to ice us out, right? Just push you out, don't give you opportunities, and then you'll just go away, right? And then we don't have that conservative mouthpiece. But they were wrong, and I started fighting in a different arena.
Yeah, and how did you like it's almost like you created a path where I don't know that there really
Yeah.
was one there before. So how did you do that?
Well, my husband had been telling me for 2 years, Tosh, we need to do a Trump one song. And I said, first of all, Nashville hates Trump. And right now, at that time, I was walking a path with a patriotic album, singing at veterans events and political events, Star Spangled Banner 1,000 times a month. And I wanted to go back to the ministry in Christian music. And I knew that if I did something so polarizing, talking about the 2020 election and Trump, that I would completely blow my career up and not be able to return to Nashville. And so I warred with that for a little while, actually for 2 years.
Hmm.
And he kept saying, when I got upset about the pro life song, he said, Tosh, do you really want to be a part of an industry that doesn't stand up for your values or life? And I said, you're right. And he said, we need to put a spotlight on truth. And right now, we need to hit every topic that the media and the social media platforms and the left is not allowing us to talk about. People can't talk about the 2020 election or any other topic. Let's give them an anthem to sing it because you're covered under different protections of expression. And I said, that is a great idea. So I threw a stick of dynamite. We did the Trump one song in 2023, and it went number one. It was the only Trump and political song at the time that Trump is even acknowledged. He acknowledged the January 6th choir because he was a part of it. But as you know, there are thousands of Trump songs. It was the only one he gravitated to, and he would share it. And it went platinum. It got me to a different platform to where the media deemed me the next Lee Greenwood. And because they did that, I can walk this path that was not created. It was not there. I can walk the same path as Lee Greenwood did, and I don't have to associate with a genre of music. You have to pick a genre and you have all the rules you have to follow. Because of that, I'm just kind of out. I can do anything I want to do, which is great. I started wanting to hit topics that the church was not standing up and hitting, like the demasculation of men. Men can't have babies, mutilation of children, all these things that they should stand up about. So we decided to do it in a very clever way with "Give Me a Cowboy," and that's my first country song. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, and I was going to ask it. One of the questions I had to ask was, what inspired you to write it? And I think you just kind of touched on it.
I did. Boy, I'm reading your questions ahead of time. I'm a Southern girl, so I can definitely talk. You just got to get in there and just shush me. Yeah, that was what it was. We live in a world today to where Hollywood is throwing putting weak males into the movies and making their superheroes and the heroes of every strong movie the female.
Natasha, I have to say, I know that, so many of the things that these issues that you're taking on are definitely, what's the phrase, like hot button or third rail issues, if you will, to a
They're
lot of people.
controversial,
Yeah,
yes.
but one of the things you mentioned earlier that you were the new Lee Greenwood, going back to God Bless the USA and being proud of it. That's one of the things that you would think would, patriotic themed songs used to unite us all. As we all remember after 9/11, when everybody probably remembers where they are when Lee Greenwood sang God Bless the USA at a baseball game not that
Mhm.
long after that devastating day. And for at least a couple weeks, everybody was American.
Right.
And
Right. Well,
so,
they've divided us, they pitted us against each other. And all these topics that they're trying to silence truth, period. I don't shy away of things that I think is truth, and I'm bold enough to say it. Other people would say, "Oh, I can't say that. I can't post that." I get so many messages of people in the music industry or just friends saying, "I believe with you wholeheartedly. I just can't share any of your stuff. I hope you understand." And I'm like, I pray that you can be bold. I pray that you just don't care what people think about you, and I answer to God, and that's it.
yeah, wow. That is our ultimate
Hard.
boss after all.
I know. It's hard
Yeah.
though. It's hard. You want to care about what people think about you, you know?
Yeah, no, I understand. And it's, there's things where I know on social media, regardless, even if you're not necessarily talking about quote unquote controversial topics or issues, there's still a lot of those keyboard warriors out there, and my show, when I started this show 7 years ago, I wanted to have a place where people could go for positive, inspirational, and uplifting content. That was my mission. And then having people like yourself share their stories. And people that have come on this show come from all walks of life, all areas of the world of entertainment, from singers, songwriters, comedians, actors, directors, producers, and everybody's got an amazing story to
Yeah.
share. And they may not agree on a lot of things when it comes to politics or social issues. But again, it's about just having a place where you can go and hear people's stories. And yet there's
Right.
still people out there that will leave a nasty comment about this or
I know.
that or whatever. And I recently, had a band that had a couple of non-original members, and I had to hear things like, "Oh, they're just a tribute band." No, they're not. Just stop. Just stop
People
the
are
show.
so brave behind a keyboard, you know,
Yeah.
to say the meanest things. And one thing that I did find through this whole journey that started with Trump one is there is a movement around the world that is bigger than Trump. It's bigger than MAGA. It's bigger than conservative versus liberal. This is a we the people against the elites. And you're seeing it pop up in all these countries around the world. And I would get thousands of messages around the world and still do. I have to hit the translate button half the time. And they'll say, "We just want you to know, thank you for speaking truth." Or if it wasn't for America, they wouldn't be fighting for freedom as well. And then I stepped off into the world stage with, I met the president of El Salvador, President Bukele. He was a fan of Trump one. And when he met me, he invited me and my husband, to his second inauguration. So we got to go there as his guest. Then I met the president of Argentina, who asked me to come sing for them. And I took the Trump one song and I rewrote it for him, called Malay One, and you know it. Rewrote the entire thing, personalized it. And he
Wow.
lost his mind. And so now all these leaders, from Poland to El Salvador to Chile to um, Hungary, Orban and Hungary. They're all wanting their own version of the Trump One song. They want me to rewrite it for them. So it's been very interesting to see that the problems that we are having, they're worldwide and they're bigger than us and bigger than Trump.
Yeah, and I just, I pray every day that we can figure out a way to find some common ground and find a way to come together because problems don't get solved when people can't even
Oh,
talk or listen. That's a lot of times
it's
uh,
listening
it's
is the
what's
problem.
yeah, it's the phrase that I remember hearing years ago. That it's called already listening. So they're not
Yeah,
listening to comprehend or understand. They're already listening, but already thinking about what their rebuttal is going to be, if you
right.
will. But it's one thing that is literally just spinning around in my head right now is looking at all of these, like I said before, all these things you've overcome, this path that you've kind of carved out for yourself so masterfully. If you look back on say on a positive side, what are some of your favorite memories of that journey that you've been on thus far?
In the Christian standpoint, there were so many times I would be on the road. At the height, it was like 250 dates a year, which were exhausting. Um, and I'm human. I would get tired. I would get weak. My kids, something would happen at home, and I just needed to go home. And on those days that I would have meltdowns and say, I can't go out there tonight. I don't have anything to give. I feel so weak. My husband would tell me, God's got it. And you just need to go out there and show them God and connect God to the audience and the audience to him and be a conduit. And every time that happened, something unbelievable would happen by the end of the night. Like one guy came in my merch line and hugged me, and he was planning on committing suicide that night. And his mom, he had lost his dad. His mom had gotten him a ticket to the concert, and he said he wasn't going to go. He was actually going to see them when they got home from work, his siblings and his mom, and was going to kind of tell them goodbye in his own way without telling him what he was going to do. And traffic jam, family didn't get to go to the house. He was frustrated because then he had to go up to the concert in order to see them. And they said, just stay for the first 5 minutes. Come on, that was the day that I felt like I could not go out there. I had a meltdown. But I did, and God used me that night and gave him a second chance at life. And so I would sit so humbled after every one of those. I've got thousands of those that I would sit back in tears and say, "There's a reason why
Mm.
God called me out to do this, and this makes it all worth it. The sacrifice of being away from my family, the hardship that sometimes it brings, the weariness. This is why we do what we do." And so those were the things that were the highlight. I don't get that as much anymore because it's political and it's controversial and it's Star Spangled Banner and things like that now. But I always try to bring Jesus into it, especially if I'm singing to veterans.
Mm.
Or President Trump. I did a concert on the lawn at Mar-a-Lago, and he's sitting on the front row, and I threw in some Christian songs and dedicated them to him, and tears flowing down his face. And I'm like, I'm bringing Jesus to people that may not would choose to go into a church or choose Christian songs. I'm able to intermingle them. So and then just huge things happening from getting to go see Bukele to getting to sing to the president of Argentina. And then we're leaving tomorrow for Mexico City. The U.S. ambassador to Mexico. Getting to come sing Star Spangled Banner, God Bless the USA, and Give Me a Cowboy at a big Fourth of July celebration that he
Wow.
has going on down there. So I don't know. I need to write a book because every time I turn around, it's just something that I'm in awe. Like I don't even know why I'm here, or just God be with me. And everything I do, whether it's the Star Spangled Banner or it's a Christian song, I want them to feel and hear God and not necessarily me. That's my
Mm.
prayer. So sometimes I don't really know what I'm doing, but I know that God has me on this path. He just keeps illuminating it. And I don't know why I'm walking it. Sometimes I'm afraid to walk it, but if God is with me and he is calling me in this way, then that's what I'm going to do until he tells me otherwise.
That is amazing, Natasha. I have to say, and I just man, there's been so many times in this conversation where I think my mouth is probably visibly just hanging open. And you just said, writing a yes. Not only does it need to be a book, there needs to be a movie of your story. It's just incredible from what we've talked about thus far. And I have two questions that I really am looking forward to asking you. One will kind of look back just like we did, but in a slightly different way. The other will look forward a little bit. But before I do that, other than writing these songs or rewriting the song for other world leaders and what you just talked about coming up on July 4th down in Mexico, what else is on tap for you the rest of 2025?
Goodness. So I have an opportunity to do a few dates for the Southern gospel genre of music, which is different from contemporary. It's where the Gaithers are from and all the quartets.
Okay.
So maybe I can get back to a little bit of ministry and start writing Christian songs again. But I have to tell you, I loved doing the country song. I love telling a story in it, and I may be doing more country as well. I mean, there's a lot of artists in country that kind of pull the Christian and the country together. So, it's not like it hadn't been done before. So I don't know. I'm about to put out like a dance pop song for a particular topic that's coming out next month. So I don't know. I guess if you're listening to my music lately, you probably think that I'm having an identity crisis because I'm going through all these genres, but I'm just having a blast and having the freedom to do it.
Yep. You know what though, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, and I know that I've had the opportunity to talk with a lot of artists and singers, songwriters in the past, and one of the things that, I'm always curious about is, if you're kind of dipping your toe in multiple genres, how does that impact from a songwriting standpoint? Is there anything predetermined, or you just kind of go with the flow? But I would think that, especially since you have the ability with your voice and your ability to write, I think to do anything. Like, do you get in a different mindset based on what you think you might want to write about, or do these just ideas just come to you and you go where
They
they
just
take you?
come to us, me, my husband, and my producer in Nashville, and we all co-write together. And if radio was taking my songs to radio, they're the ones that have the strict rules. They want to hear certain instruments and not certain instruments. That tells which genre it is.
Right.
But I don't have a radio promoter that will take any of my music to radio anymore. I'm too controversial. Even with the Give Me a Cowboy, the country music radio promoters told me that the industry of country music, the topic of the traditional family is too controversial. So I have to put out my songs through a press release, which is very different. And if I can get it out to the people, then it spreads like wildfire, right? And kind of go around the industries. So yeah.
I can tell you there are a lot of artists that I've had the opportunity to speak with who, in some cases, even had record deals in the past, but they're not one of the eight or nine, artists
Yep.
that are on the rotation on the radio stations today.
Yeah.
So they're
It's
having
hard.
to put out stuff, form their own record labels, be an independent artist. So it's just fascinating to me how so many incredible talents are having to do something similar to what you described, albeit for different
Yeah.
reasons, because there's only a handful of artists that seem to get on the radio these days.
I know. Well, it's all in the radio promoter. You have to get to the top tier radio promoter in order to make it to radio, right? In order to really get acknowledged. Although it is a grassroots type thing. If you have a video or a song that goes viral online, the record labels look at that. So as an independent artist, you're able to get discovered a whole lot
Mm.
easier than before, but there's just less slots, right? When everything went streaming, it,
Yeah.
it destroyed the music industry of every genre. There's not as much money. And that's when everything started changing in the contemporary Christian world. All the heads were fired, and they brought secular music people in to run this to try to make money. And that's where everything changed. It wasn't about ministry anymore. So
Wow.
contemporary Christian is just an industry that's not any different than pop or rock at this point because of who runs it. But I was offered several 360 deals, is what they call them, from several record labels. Turn them all down because they take away your freedom. They take away your input. They take away your creativity as an artist sometime. We formed our own record label. Now we have 10 artists underneath it, and we give them the flexibility and the freedom to put out what they want to put out.
Wow.
So we
What a
did
novel
something a little
concept.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Imagine that.
I would think that's going to bring some people, bring a lot of talented people to you to have that kind of creative flexibility in today's world where it seems to be almost non-existent elsewhere. So kudos to you for doing that and giving them
Absolutely.
that opportunity as well. So I do have those two last questions for you. One similar, I asked you what you were, some of those favorite memories are. So this one, kind of looking back, slightly different angle. What are you most proud of?
You know, I am most proud of, well, several things. I'm proud of the four albums that represent my walk, my recovery.
Mm,
And I still, I send out that music when I come across someone that's really struggling with something that's faith shaking. They need to hear that music. I'm sending it out because it really does help them, from making it through a trial to rising above to being a warrior and then truly standing. All four projects are very different depending on what walk in life you are. So I'm very proud of that, but I'm very proud of the fact that I broke through with a song, even though it's controversial, even though it gave me death threats. um, I got around the industry. I got around the press. I got it to the people, and I was able to get to a different level, a different
mm.
platform with more people to where they they pay attention to what I say now, and that was a huge accomplishment. I know it makes my family smile. It makes my mom smile. My kids, my sister, when they come across someone and they know who I am or they know the song, they I don't know. It just makes them happy, and therefore that makes me happy.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's phenomenal. And that actually maybe even piggybacks into that last question I was going to ask, where I always like to kind of then take a little bit of a look ahead and ask, what would success ultimately look like for you? And I would think making others happy is going to be part of it, but what would that look like for you?
If I can make a difference in someone's life, and whether it is helping bring them restoration, help them to learn God for the first time, help put their pieces back together, that that is how I view success. I said before that I pray that they feel God and hear God in everything I do, and not necessarily me. That's how I judge how I do in a night. It's not by if I hit every note or say every word correctly. It's if they felt the presence of God, if they felt Him, if I help make a difference in their life. So that's how I judge it. That's how I judge success. Period. And on the political standpoint, and the truths that I'm fighting for, if I can give someone the courage to stand up and say, this isn't right, we need to talk about this, then that's how I judge success.
Wow.
Just, giving people courage.
Yeah, I think those are very admirable, reasons and things to see as being a success. And I have to tell you, Natasha, I didn't know so many of the things that you've shared with me, and I just want to thank you for being as strong and resilient as you've been, and just like the definition of persistent and just keeping at it and having that belief and that faith, taking that lifeline all those years ago, because like I said before, none of the other stuff we've talked about since happens if you weren't brave enough to do that. So
Well, I was weak. I'll tell you, I was the weak one. My husband was strong for me, and God was strong and had to show up in big ways. But I look back on how I acted and how I handled myself, and I'm very disappointed in me. I'm definitely the weak link, but I am strong when God is with me. And so if you see strength, you see the God in me and not necessarily me, because I'm very weak. Very.
well, God is coming through you and reaching people and uplifting people, and there's strength in that. So again, I thank you so much for being real, genuine, authentic, and who you are. I wish you all the best on your
Thank
upcoming
you.
trip down south to Mexico, because you're in Texas. So yeah, it's still down
Yeah,
south from where you
yeah,
are.
still down south.
Yeah, still down south. So I wish you all the best with that trip, with
Thank
everything
you.
else you've got going on. And I'd love to have you back on at some point down the road and talk about
Love
whatever
it.
exciting new projects you're working on then.
I would love it because we're always stepping off into something. So just stay tuned.
Will do. So thanks again,
Thank
Natasha.
you.
Really
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
it. Folks, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
I know I'm living in the city, not the wild, wild west. I don't need a man in boots as long as I'm the one in the dress. Hollywood ain't no good. Where did the real men go? When did we lose the heat and the hero? Give me a cowboy, God and country strong. Give me a cowboy who knows left from right, from wrong. I'll be the one, you be the man, just like the good Lord planned. Give me a cowboy. I'm cool with cooking in the kitchen, cool with taking your name. And I'm okay with giving birth, 'cause you can't do the same. Give me grit, give me don't quit. Give me tough with a tender side. Lead with love, strong enough to lead without pride. Give me a cowboy, God and country strong. Give me a cowboy who knows left from right, from wrong. I'll be the one, you be the man, just like the good Lord planned. Give me a cowboy. Being a man is a matter of birth. Being a man is a matter of choice. Mamas, please let your babies grow up to be cowboys.
This week's episode has been brought to you by Doherty and Company Insurance Services for all your business and personal insurance needs. Our friends at Tennis Addiction in Exton, PA. And the Malin Agency, where exceeding expectations is how they do business.